Development for Darkwatch began back in 2002, when, according to Wikipedia, High Moon Studios wanted to bring a fresh breath of air into the tired military and sci-fi first-person shooter genre. Darkwatch originally looked a lot different, almost cartoony, and you can see that from the in-game video progression of Jericho. The game itself was almost a comedy shooter, kind of like Borderlands, but it evolved into something dark and spooky. Originally, Tala, your companion, was supposed to be a playable character like Evie and Jacob from Assassin's Creed Syndicate, but the devs thought, nah, that just won't fly. Released back in 2005 on PS2 and Xbox as High Moon's flagship title and published by Capcom, the game would go on to receive average to high reviews from people in two camps, those who loved it and those who weren't fans. I happen to fall in the love it camp. It's quick, action-packed, and it's just a good time. Solid shooting, solid mechanics, and everything. Yes, the story is generic, but like a recent game I played, The Last Story on Wii, the journey to get there is well worth it. If High Moon Studios sounds very familiar to you, or familiar but you can't remember what they've done, they're one of the studios bought by Activision Blizzard. They helped work on the Call of Duty Advanced Warfare game, and they're the studio behind Destiny 1. They've been quiet on game development since 2014, so who knows what they're working on or if the studio is still around in any capacity. Darkwatch starts off with you playing as Jericho Cross in 1876 Arizona, an outlaw whose last heist ended with him unleashing a great evil vampire called Lazarus Malkoff and becoming a creature like him. You battle falling to the fate of becoming a vampire through your good and evil choices, and you join the titular vampire hunting organization Darkwatch to stop the big bad Lazarus and help the organization. Jennifer Hale, again, is putting her amazing vocals to the character Cassidy, but she gets killed off in the first 20 minutes of the game. Or does she? Along the way, you meet and become acquainted with characters from Darkwatch like General Clay Cartwright and Tala, voiced by Rose McGowan, who becomes your love interest with a lot of baggage. But don't get attached, as most times you're on your own, and even with they're in the missions with you, you're still on your own, really. And you only see the characters like Cartwright, General Clay Cartwright, once, and you'll see various others a handful of times. The game has two endings based on your good and evil choices, although the devs could have gone, I feel it could have gone with three endings for somebody who makes both good and bad choices, kind of straddles the neutral line, instead of making you choose one or the other at the end. But they didn't. And it also affects who you fight in the end, what choices you make, which gives the game immediate replayability if you want to go and see the other side. It also has a multiplayer mode, but not playing that. Each side unlocks good and evil powers, and sometimes it's easy to do something bad without meaning to, or vice versa, or sometimes when you're trying to be good and the AI runs in front of your gun as you're shooting, that can result in a bad action. It's sometimes unavoidable. Along with the choices you make story-wise that affect your actions, there are tortured souls in little nooks and crannies that you can free or damn, and are often hidden away, and you have to make sure to look around and double check everywhere. You have your hub city, the Darkwatch Citadel, where you visit after missions to select the next mission, but it only happens for 3 missions, and you don't get to walk around or explore anything. You're just there to talk to your mission giver, get your weapon, and then move on. It almost feels unnecessary since it's so empty. So I'm playing this on an emulator. The emulator is 4 times native resolution, so it's 4 times better than the PS2. But even switching back to the native resolution of the game, this game looks awesome. Yes, it's a dark game, but you're playing as a man turning into a vampire, so I'm not expecting you to play it in sunny, bright days, although you do have like 2 or 3 missions where you do go out in the day, and you're weaker and more vulnerable, and you can't use your powers, so you have to find shadows where you can. It's a cool little mechanic. I did enjoy that. I did have some visual bugs boosting the resolutions, but they were fixed by small changes in the emulator. This was easy to get running, and I had no chug-along, no slowdown, no crashes, nothing. The enemies are varied as well, and well modeled, and all react to getting your limbs, their limbs shut off and dying in magnificent ways. Your weapons are well animated and reloading is fast, not bogging you down with slow, unskippable, reloadable animations. And the weapons also have, each weapon also has a different melee attack, which is really cool. The game has a cool dismemberment system, nowhere like Dead Space, but you can still shoot off arms and the enemies will react, and if you shoot off both arms, they'll just fall down and die. In turn, you can also shoot them in the head, which is sometimes harder said than done. But it's also a one-hit kill when you do it. Unless you keep backing up and getting the enemies to line up in a straight line, like you do for some games, like Fallout is one game I can think of to do that. Headshots can be kind of hard to get. The controls are fine, but I think I would have had more fun with a mouse and keyboard, especially for the headshots and the aiming, but that's just my personal preference. I did still have fun with a controller on this. This is an action-packed first-person shooter. No joke, it's from one shooting level to the next, action to action with plenty of challenge thrown in. It reminds me of a modern Hexen or Heretic, but that just might be a stretch on my part. With that brings the usual and unusual weapons, but it limits you to carrying 2 at a time. You have a Redeemer pistol, which is your workhorse, which was my workhorse at least, and it's probably the most fun to fire. You can fan bullets out if you hold down the fire button, almost like a McCree in his high noon, but you can do it all the time. And it's usually something you should always have on hand because ammo is so plentiful. There's also a dual-wield version of the pistols, which can do the same fan fire, but the aim is just all over the place and I try to avoid it as much as possible. There's a carbine rifle, which was my other mainstay, just for the range and stopping power, as one shot usually took down most basic enemies. There's RPGs, there's also suppressed rifles, and a shotgun, which is awesome to have if you're going to a boss fight. Unless you have a full carbine, then I would stick with that. In the unusual weapons comes a crossbow that fires explosive bolts, which is fun as it sounds and also extremely dangerous because you can kill yourself easily if an enemy runs at you with one of the bolts in, or you don't throw your grenades far enough. Ammo and health are found throughout the world by killing enemies, or sometimes health is found through little canteens you can pick up. Health turns into floating globes that are magnetized to you as you walk by. You also have a range of powers that you can get split into 2 tiers, the good tier and the evil tier, and you can unlock them, choose based on your good and evil actions throughout the entire story. And each has benefits and each has drawbacks and all this stuff. The only thing that I would have to comment, gameplay wise and control wise, aside from, I prefer the precision shooting with mouse and keyboard, is that the vampire jump was real floaty. It was like 0G, but weirder. I don't know. I understand what it's meant to be, but it was just a change. But once you get used to it, sometimes it was fun to jump around because sometimes you think you'd be landing on something, but you just didn't quite make it. Now there is an attention to detail in this audio that it just blows me away. I'm almost speechless. Every time Jericho takes a step, you hear his spurs, and I love it. It's such a small detail, and a lot of games would completely just block out and be like, he has spurs. You can just picture in your mind he has spurs, but you don't need to hear them. And you hear them quite frequently, actually, here. It did catch me off guard a couple times, because I'd be walking, and I'd be walking, and be like, what is that noise? Oh, it's the spurs. Dang it. I guess it was what it is. It's a spooky action game, so the ambience is set with great monster sounds and eerie ambient music. All music except the main theme is original, and even the main theme, it's the song from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, was remixed to give it a spooky horror vibe. There's really not much to say about the audio here. It's all good. The voice acting is good. It's got Jennifer Hale, and Rose McGowan. Just great voice acting all around. I had a lot of fun with this game. It's action-packed, it's fast. It took me 6.5 hours for one playthrough. I went with the good choices. I quite enjoyed this game. It's action-packed with fast, awesome, good bits, and like I said, generic, but great story, great journey to the story. I did come across a pretty serious bug, and this is only with the emulate, if you're going to play it on emulator, that almost stopped me from finishing the game, but I kept the wiki open for the game. PCSX2 has a wiki that you can look at, and I was able to fix the issue there, but it was pretty serious. Like, I could not progress, the game was not loading, and it was whatever. Like I said, it took me 6.5 hours to finish a good playthrough. The game has replay abilities in the way of making evil choices or having a balance between good and evil, but at this moment I wasn't compelled to dive right back into it and go play the other way. Maybe one day I'll go back and play, considering this game isn't super long and now I know, how to play it, I guess you could say. One place I wanted to see a bit more of was the hub in the Darkwatch Citadel. And no, not the Citadel you're thinking of, not the Mass Effect space station. You launch only 3 missions from here, and you have the final mission is in there too, and you get to manage your loadouts before those missions. I felt like it could have been opened up. It was really, the only thing you can do there is talk to your mission giver, change your loadouts, and then just go. I would have really loved to wander a bit. It feels like there was supposed to be more to this game, like a lot more. Either time or change of direction caused this to be half finished, half used and unfinished. It really feels like there was supposed to be more done with the Citadel, but it was really cut out. And if you're gonna go that route, they should have just taken out the Citadel, because you're only there for 3 missions. And the quote-unquote 3 missions that gives you choice. Now, you still have to do those 3 missions, so it doesn't matter. I don't know why the hub is there. In the end, everything came together in a nice, neat little package. It's a fast-paced action horror shooter. It doesn't overstay its welcome, it's atmospheric, and it has a decent, if predictable, story and rock-solid combat. Really enjoyed getting my hands on this game. It's one of those ones that you play it, or you played it back in the day and you're like, whatever happened to that game? And you go back and you still have a good time. Well, some people. There's people that don't like it. But this is a game I would recommend playing, definitely. Definitely try to get a physical copy if you can. Emulate it if you can't. At your own risk, of course. Not saying you should emulate things, but if you want, whatever. Not gonna stop you, you're grown people. And see you guys in the next one.